Well, hello everyone. My name is Daphne St. Clair, and I am so excited to be joined by the one, the only Jacqui from the Bluffs. We're going to be talking all things Canadian theater today. So, Jacqui, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience here and tell us a little bit about the Bluffs?
Sure, thanks, Daphne. I'm Jacqui Sirois, and I am the director of the Bluffs. We are at Theatre Passmarais Main Space, and we have 3 more shows as of today. The Bluffs is a gothic horror drama, and it's about a young woman named Eleanor who is a new widow, and she goes to the cottage that she inherited when her wife died there 6 months prior. And she finds her estranged brother-in-law there squatting, and she's looking to sell the cottage. So a lot of chaos ensues. There's a seance, and it's a little spooky.
Wonderful. I mean, all Canadian theater's a little bit spooky, right? I'm hearing a lot about cults and seances and all these other things, and people are really talking about Canadian theater much like a cult in a lot of ways. So I'm curious, what is your perspective on what Canadian theater is, and how does this show fit into the landscape of Canadian theater?
Yeah, Canadian theater, I think it's so weirdly specific. The only thing I have to compare it to is like American theater. But I find like Canadian theater, there's like something, like a sense of being unafraid to tackle topics that are a little challenging, both for like the writer and the artist to put on, and also the audiences to take in. And I think there's like a willingness for audiences to like be open to whatever it is that is being thrown at them. So that's sort of what I think about when I think about Canadian theater, and what I see when I go to shows during the year. And at the Fringe, I'm always even more open when it comes to Fringe to see what's out there. And I've been so pleasantly surprised and delighted by the topics people are writing about. And I think with our show, we touch on a lot of topics in the Bluffs. We talk about grief in a lot of different ways, about complicated relationships with your family, with your lovers, with your found family. So that's something that I think is really messy, and something that we touch on quite a bit in the Bluffs. So yeah, I think I know for sure there was a sense of courage and bravery that came into the writing of the piece from our playwright Sarni, and just putting it on, we've had to ask a lot of our actors to be a little scared and try new things and get out of their comfort zone. So I definitely think the Bluffs folds in really beautifully to what I think Canadian theater is.
Wonderful. And now you talk about asking your actors and the creators to be scared, but are you asking your audience as well to be scared? Should I be nervous going into this show? What kind of feelings are you getting from audiences so far?
I mean, definitely be open to being a little spooked. We've got ghosts. As I said, we have a seance. Lots of fun, spooky things happen. But I think what audience has been saying is a lot, like, just everyone's talking about what impacts them, and it's all been really different things. I've had people talk about the moments of grief and how it's affected them, because that's something sadly everyone has to go through in their life. I've had people talk about the aspects of the relationship of Eleanor and the dead wife, and you know, when the wife was alive, what that relationship was like, and how fiery it was, and how love is really complicated, and people talking about that. Some people are experiencing horror for the first time at our show, and are feeling brave themselves to come and see it. So that's, you know, been so nice to hear what parts have been really spooky for them, and how they might feel a little more brave to go watch some more horror movies after seeing The Bluff. So it's been really great overall. People have been really surprised and delighted by our show, which, you know, is music to my ears. And yeah, I think it's just been a great time for audiences to come and see something a little different at the Fringe.
Wonderful. And now you say you might encourage audiences to watch more horror movies, but what about horror shows, horror plays? How does this, what would you think the challenge would be to get audiences to see horror plays versus horror movies? I think movies are far more accessible than plays, but I don't see a whole lot of horror shows in the program as I'm looking. So I'm curious what your perspective is on that.
Yeah, I mean, I was really delighted to see a couple other more spooky shows. I mean, I have to shout out Girls Night Cabin Fever. They did an amazing job with their horror farce that they did. But I think when it comes to horror and theater, there's a couple aspects to it that totally are different from film. With film, you have camera work and you can use focus and guide the audience's eye to what you want them to be looking at or not looking at for the spook factor. But I think when in theater, you don't have that. So you have to trick audiences in different ways to have the sort of scare factor be really effective. And I would love to see more horror theater. I think that, you know, especially Canadian theater, people are so creative. People really think outside the box, and you have to in order to make that scare factor really make people jump. And I think we've had a couple fun moments in our show where that's really effective. And yeah, I think it's just about playing with the medium and getting audiences to experience horror firsthand when it's happening live right in front of you. Totally different vibe, but really, really fun.
Wonderful. And okay, so it's set in Muskoka, right? So tell me a little bit about why Muskoka. You know, there's a lot of, cottage country areas around, even just Ontario. So I'm curious, why Muskoka? What about Muskoka is so scary and so innately Canadian?
I mean, Muskoka is one of the most beautiful places in Canada, let alone Ontario. It's one of my favorite places to go in the summer, so it just felt like a nice thing to visit during the summer at the Fringe Festival. And I think what makes parts of Muskoka so creepy is that it's very dark. It gets very dark at night up in Muskoka. You can see the stars, which is amazing, something you don't necessarily get in Toronto, but when the darkness comes at night, it's very dark. You can get some amazing sleeps, though, I will say. And there's like a lot of trees, like very old trees. You know, there's the threat of water, which is like beautiful on a hot day, but also on a really stormy day. You know, your access is cut off to the roads. There's, service can be really spotty, all that stuff. So there's a lot of elements that could come into what makes Muskoka so creepy.
Very interesting. I've honestly got a little bit of a shiver just thinking about that. Even just water. I don't know. Maybe I've got rabies or something. Think about the water. I don't know. I've got a little quiz for you. In my research on Muskoka, I found some things, some similarities, and I'm curious your perspective. What do these people have in common? Martin Short, Steven Spielberg, Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, Kate Hudson, Tom Hanks, and Justin Bieber. What do you think they all have in common?
I want to say that they own property up in Muskoka.
She is so smart. Yes, they all summer in Muskoka. So have celebrities, have stars played into this at all? I'm just curious.
I mean, I'm not at discretion to say.
Interesting. All right, so we're all going to have to sign NDAs after this, okay? Wonderful. I'm curious what does this show mean to you specifically? You've talked a lot about, the actors and the writer, but as a director or just you, Jacqui, personally, what does this show mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, this was the first time I got to work with my friends on a show. So Bo and Sarni are close friends of mine, so we really wanted to put something out there. So getting to create with my friends has been really fun, and that process has been amazing with them. So that's been great. But I think the Bluffs itself, we talk a lot about sibling relationships in it, and my sibling also worked on the show. My brother Mike did the set design, so actually getting to work with my sibling on the show was really, really special. And I think too, just in the research for the show, and I say it in my director's note, is a year ago I would not watch a horror movie at all, and my partner loves them, and so for the research for the show I watched a lot more horror, and I feel so much braver now to explore horror, and I think that growth for me has been really special, and something I look forward to taking with me after the Bluffs, and I have to thank the process of the Bluffs for opening that up to me.
That's really quite wonderful. What a community-based event, right? Back to the cults, right? Oh, it's just so tight-knit. Very scary. And what are you looking most forward to at the Fringe this year? I know we're in a couple days in, but these last few days, what is like really tickling your fancy here?
I mean, I want to just keep trying to see as many shows as I can. I've gotten to see a bunch. Rat Academy is one of my favorite things I've ever seen at the Fringe ever in my life. So I'm going again. I just want to see more things. I met so many amazing artists at the Fringe events, and I want to try and get out and see their shows, and just encourage everyone to go see whatever you can. Take a chance on the Fringe. It's really fun. Buy a pass, and just like go and listen to some cool stories about people in Toronto.
That's wonderful. And what have you learned about yourself and or others maybe in this process at the Fringe?
I mean, I've definitely learned a lot. I've learned a lot about being a leader, an arts leader, and what people look for in that. I've learned a lot about like letting go, what kinds of things you need to let go. Fringe is an amazing experience for just like throwing your art at the wall and see what sticks, and not having the time to make it polished and perfect, because perfect doesn't exist. So it's like, what are you really trying to do? What stories are you really trying to tell? So I've learned so much about that, and just a lot about like continuing to work with people and other artists and people with different backgrounds than you. I'm like so pleased that 80% of our team is neurodivergent, so getting to work with people whose brains work a little differently, myself included, and getting to see that work on stage has been so beautiful and amazing. And I've just learned a lot about the people aspect and the community, as we've been talking about. Not a cult, but
The cult.
not the Bluffs is not a cult.
Okay. Wonderful. And you talk about, you were telling stories, continuing to tell stories. What story are you trying to tell?
That's a great question. I want to tell many stories, but mostly I want to tell stories about people that are underestimated and how they can sort of defy the expectations put on them. And that's sort of my mission for all the theater that I want to do, it's rooted in that, people being underestimated and coming out on top.
Have you ever been underestimated in your life?
All the time. I am a female director, so it kind of comes with the tag there. Yeah.
I completely understand. We'll get through that, right? I hope.
I think so. I think we both can, for sure.
Wonderful. Well, we have a female director right here directing the Bluffs, so that's quite exciting. I think that's a step forward in Canadian theater, am I right?
It sure is.
Wonderful. Is there anything else before we wrap up this little interview here that you'd like to add, like to share with our lovely little camcorder audience over there?
Come see the Bluffs. We're at Theatre Passe Muraille through the weekend, and it's a really fun time. Also, just go see any Fringe show, but mostly come see the Bluffs.
Wonderful. A little selfish in our plug there. Thank you so much for joining me, Jacqui, and I can't wait to see where the Bluffs takes us. Thank you. This is Daphne St. Clair signing off.